what I love, you know how like you try to talk a friend into going to a new restaurant or something, and you're like, no, really, I think you'll really like it. And your friend's like, I don't know, maybe we should just go to the same old place. You're like, no, please, please, please come to this new place. And then you're there and you're like, God, I hope it's really as good as I remember it being. But then they really love it. They're like, oh my God, this place is amazing. I love this restaurant. You're like, I know, I told you, it was so great. That's how I feel like about the How to Make $1,000 training. I feel like I spent a week, 2 weeks or whatever going like, no, you guys, it's really awesome and it's fun and it actually works. And everybody's like, I don't know, Sam. And then everybody enrolled at the last possible second, like they always do. And then everybody on the call was like, this is amazing. This is so fun. This was so easy. This is so inspiring. This is so great. I can totally do this. I'm like, I know. You can still sign up. Actually, if you want to do it, you can still do it. You'll get the recording right away. There's a workbook that goes with it. You get a month in the daily practicum so we can support you daily. I think you will find it is the best $97 you will ever spend, possibly ever. And really, there's nothing like tricksy about it. It's you end up with an actual plan. I was broke my life. I mean, I grew up in a very privileged background, but the minute I became an actor, I mean, I got my first job when I was 12. I always worked. I always had a job and sometimes several jobs. And the minute I was supporting myself as an actor, I had a lot of jobs and I was super broke because my jobs had to be really flexible so I could go on auditions and book shows and go out of town or work nights or do whatever I needed to do. So I was never poor because I had lots of resources and lots of opportunities. I just chose these really low paying opportunities so that I could keep myself available for acting. And that went on my whole life. I was really good at being broke. I made quite an art form out of coupon clipping and shopping at thrift stores and making food out of beans and rice and living in really cheap apartments and never having new anything, but certainly not new furniture. And it was great. I was in no, I mean, it was hard and sometimes I was miserable, but there was a moment I was just about to start this business. So I think I was in my early 40s. You guys know I didn't start doing this till I was 42, right? So this whole entrepreneurship thing started. I was in the grocery store and they had peonies for sale, which, like many of you, peonies is by far and away my favorite flower. And they don't grow in Southern California. Everything else grows in Southern California, but peonies do not because they need a hard freeze. They're only available really in the month of May. And they were whatever they were, 15 or 20 bucks. And I was feeling so sorry for myself. I was like, oh, it's May and they're my favorite flower and I can't really afford it. I can't really justify the money and feeling so sad and sorry for myself and so victimized by the world. Like I did a lot in those days. And all of a sudden, this monster of frustration built up inside me, just came roaring up. And all of a sudden, there was this voice in my head, unlike anything really I'd ever heard, saying, I am so fucking sick of this. This is fucking ridiculous. You are a grown woman. You want the fucking flowers? Buy the fucking flowers. You will find the $20. You'll figure it out. Just figure it out. It's $20. And even if it was $200 or $200,000, this money thing is not unsolvable. Dumber people than you have figured it out. And I was so annoyed with myself. I was so frustrated with my own behavior and my own poor mouthing and victimization and my own attachment to how virtuous I was because I was so broke and I was so good at being broke. And I was like, oh, get over yourself. And I did right there in the grocery store. I had a spiritual transformation and I was like, that's true. I have plenty of ways to make money. I'm just not doing any of them. Fuck that. So I bought the flowers and I went back and bought them every week they were available after that. I was like, life is too short. I'm not going to deprive myself of one of the supreme joys in life, which is having fresh peonies blooming on your table. And I want to invite you into that transformation. In my experience, it's almost the only way when something changes is when you're just like, you know what? No, I'm not playing that game with you anymore. I'm not going to participate with you in your alcoholism anymore. I'm not going to stay married to you anymore. I'm not going to tolerate this mess in this house anymore. I'm not going to tolerate being out of shape anymore. I'm not going to tolerate what sugar does to me anymore. Whatever it is that you're like, I'm not going to tolerate not having a book anymore. All that stuff that's been tapping on your shoulder, tap, 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 all that stuff that is not working for you in your life. And then you're like, well, I'll just tolerate it some more. And the problem with you all, because you are so interesting and so creative and so strong and so emotionally mature and so spiritually mature, that you can tolerate a lot. It's not helping. It's not helping. I was just talking to my sister at dinner the other night. The two of us went out, just the two of us, which was super fun. And we were talking about some challenging situations that we're facing together. And we were affirming that we were facing them together. Curious if these challenging situations can actually end up being something really great for us. And if there's some way to structure our approach to this, even if it's, not a situation we would have picked for ourselves, can we approach it not from what can we tolerate or what do we think might be okay, but what can we actually do that's going to really work for us, that's going to make our lives better, that dealing with this hard situation can have a positive outcome. So we can actually look back and go, you know what, I'm really glad that happened. And I don't know, that's a mystery question. This is where we engage with the mystery. We go, I don't know. I don't know how that would be. But I'm curious to think about it and pray on it and feel into it and get a little crazy in my thinking around it, go lateral, go sideways, go diagonally, like, what if this thing that seems hard and challenging could actually be easy and beneficial? What does that look like? Because I'm tired of feeling victimized by situations that are hard. As you guys know, I faced a lot of tough shit in the last, like all of us, right? But I'm tired of it derailing me. I'm tired of it feeling too hard. I'm tired of feeling put upon. I'm tired of feeling like, oh, it's only happening to me, because it's not. It's happening to all of us. Things are tough all over, kid, right? So, but it's only when you get fed up with your own bullshit, fed up with your own line of that you're going to change. So I sort of want you to amp up your frustration, amp up your annoyance at this toleration. Because like I said, it's so easy for my sister and I to we can tolerate a lot. So in some ways, the easy path, how about this? The easy path is for us to do it the harder way because we know we've got the strength to do it. The harder path is for us to figure out the easy way. Let me say that again because it seems weird, but I see you guys doing this too, where you're you think about making money or getting your business out there or having that hard conversation with a friend, whatever it is that's coming up for you and being challenging, that's been challenging repeatedly. It's not a new situation, it's an old one. In some ways, it's easier to just deal with it the way you've been dealing with it. I can take it. It's okay. I don't want to rock the boat. It's not going to change anyway. I'll just deal with it. It's fine. Even though that's more work for you and depletes you, it sort of feels easier because you're so used to it, because you have an ability to tolerate. Whereas flipping the switch and saying, you know what? No, I'm going to find a better job. No, I'm going to stop communicating with this person who consistently drains me and puts me down, but it feels harder. So you don't do it. So this is why I want you to amp up your toleration. I want you to amp up your frustration with yourself. I want you to amp up how fed up you are. Imagine your poor guardian angel. This idea that you got assigned a special guardian angel at birth, and this idea that your guardian angel is on the phone, on their monthly report to God, again, going I don't know what to do. She just keeps running around the same track all the time, saying how much she doesn't like things, and then she doesn't do anything. I don't know what to tell you. I keep throwing opportunities in her way, and she just doesn't take them, right? You are so frustrating to your guardian angel. Stop doing that. You could get a promotion and get a better job. All right, let me see. I have not been paying any attention to the chatter. There's Archie. Say hi, Archie. She likes to jump up to high things. So she jumped. I realize it looks like she just launched herself into space and is now circling the atmosphere, but she's actually just up on the shelf over there. Robert says, when will I be fed up enough? Exactly. How bad does this have to get before I make a change? In some ways, we like it. I've talked before about these stages of how we have inspiration. We have a little idea that says, oh, maybe I could get a better job, or, oh, maybe I could not tolerate this friendship that doesn't really feel like friendship. So we have these little ideas. And sometimes you act on them. You just get an idea and then you move. It's awesome. But if you don't, then you starts to become an invitation, right? You start to see opportunities. You see an ad in the paper. Oh, I've been thinking about doing something like that. Or a friend tells you about their amazingly peaceful divorce. And you're like, oh, that would be an interesting way to do that. Or you hear about a class, or you hear a sermon or a Facebook Live or something that you're like, oh, I'm feeling really invited into this right now. That may be the point at which you take action. Then it becomes a toleration, right? If you skip those first two steps, then it becomes a toleration. And then you start to get really kind of grumpy about the whole thing. And then finally, it becomes an emergency. And in some ways, we sort of like it to be an emergency because it kind of takes the decision out of our hands, well, I didn't have any choice. I had to, I had to quit. I had to move. I had to get fired, but it becomes a lot more expensive, right? You have to move a lot faster. It becomes more expensive. You have fewer options. So if you can start to deal with the tolerations in your life before they're even tolerations, right? So let's design for the best possible outcome to start with. What's the fun, easy way to get to this place that I want to go emotionally, physically, spiritually? What little inspirations do I have about how to explore that? And how much action can I take? Fail faster. This stagnancy, this weight of you, it's so tiring for you and everybody else. At least get upset about something else. Have something else happen, right? You all are so intensely creative and you think and overthink so much. You will overcomplicate a fucking paper bag. It's one of the most beautiful things about you, your grasp of nuance and emotional subtlety and other people's energies. And it's really beautiful to be a part of. Sometimes it's like you're swimming through rubber cement, right? It's just all so sticky and complicated. I'm inviting you into action, to testing, like just try it for a day. And here's the one strategy that actually works when you want to change your life. Raise the basement. Sometimes we try to work backwards. We're like, oh, I have this dream of me thinner or having more sex or in a cleaner house or with a better job. And then we try to work backwards from that vision. But that's really sort of frustrating in and of itself because you're like, well, how am I supposed to even get there? Instead, start from where you are. Start right where you are. That sounds like the name of a great book. Start right where you are. So like, okay, I am tired of being in this body. I would like to be in a stronger body. I'm going to, I did 0 exercise yesterday. I'm going to go for a 5-minute walk today. And that's it, 5-minute walk. And then tomorrow I'm going to do a 5-minute walk and 1 push-up. And the day after that, I'm going to do a 5-minute walk and 2 push-ups. And the day after that, I'm going to do a 10-minute walk and 2 push-ups and 1 burpee. Or I don't know, whatever, right? So you start raising the basement. So we say the bare minimum I can do is 5 minutes. So I'm always going to do that. And then I'm going to keep raising that bare minimum for myself. And I want you to start with that bare minimum being so stupidly self-evident, so easy to do, such a no-brainer that you're like, well, I can't not do it. It's too stupid. If you constantly have dirty dishes in the sink, you can say, okay, the basement currently has been always dirty dishes in the sink. I'm going to raise the basement and have it be, I wash at least 1 coffee cup every day. Right. And then once that starts to feel too easy, you're like, well, I've done the 1 coffee cup. I might as well do these other coffee cups. Okay. So now all the coffee cups are clean every day. Oh, that's interesting. Right. Same thing with this is, this is the only way to raise your income level is to, if whatever your 0 is in your bank account, like, oh, I never let it go into overdraft. So 0 then is your basement. Oh, I never let it go below $1,000. Oh, I never let it go below $10,000. You have to keep raising the basement. So whatever your basement is currently, probably 0. Maybe it's overdraft. I know a lot of people who spend a lot of time in overdraft. Just raise it up. Some manageable amount. You're saying, okay, now my basement is 0. I'm not going to let my bank account go below 0. If it starts to get close to 0, I'm going to spring into action and make sure it doesn't go below 0. That's my new basement. And now I'm going to say my basement is $100. I'm going to treat $100 as though it's 0. So you're moving the trigger at which you would spring into action closer to you. So now the trigger is, ooh, I'm down to $140. I better bring something in the same way you would when it was at 0. Right? Same thing with your friend who's an energy sucking vampire. You used to tolerate a whole coffee with them. And now you're like, you know what? The first time they say something nasty to me, I'm going to, excuse myself and go to the restroom. So I don't actually have to tolerate that exact moment. So this is why we have the daily practicum, right? 15 minutes a day, 15 minutes to spend on something that matters to you. Raise up increase your level of frustration, increase the height of your basement, whatever the bare minimum you are willing to tolerate is, and you will change your life. I guarantee it. Let's see. Oh, there's so many good comments. Okay. Julie says, has an epiphany. Instead of using my creative, oops, hold on, I'm getting a FaceTime video that I need to decline. Thank you. Epiphany. Instead of using my creative brain to think up ways to tolerate the situation, I can use it to figure out how to change it. What? Exactly. You are a creative genius. Figure out another way. Don't just figure out how to tolerate more, how to deal with more. No. It's not that hard. Ask the people who were on the How to 1K call last night. Like all of a sudden the idea of making $1,000 was easy. Because we did it in little teeny tiny incremental non-sequential steps that sort of confused their brain just enough to give them an outcome that was really unexpected. And now their job is to spend 15 minutes a day and make one phone call a day and bring that plan to life. So they will have $1,000 in the next 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. And so we have the daily practicum, right, where we work every day for 15 minutes together on Zoom, so that you have raised yourself up from, oh, I didn't do any writing this week, to I did 15 minutes a day. One day. I did 15 minutes a day, 2 days. I did 15 minutes a day, 7 days. I did 15 minutes a day for 4 days. And then on the 5th day, I wrote for 4 hours. Oh, look at that. Right? I called one person a day just to reaffirm my connections, because everything happens through other people. Relationships are everything. And the first 2 were sort of fine. And the third one offered me a consulting gig. Oh, really? Right? Oh, I just started walking around the block, and now I've started walking around 2 blocks. And then I started walking around 3 blocks. And now I found this other park and I'm going for a run. Oh, really? But you guys dream so big that you overwhelm yourself and you don't know where to start. So you've got to start where you are. You got to start frustrated, and you got to start baby steps. The baby steps will take you right to the Mother May I giant leaps, but you've got to start. You got to start. The harder the path is to figure out the easy way. Yes, the harder path is to figure out the easy way. It's true. Megan says, I feel so called out. I've been tolerating a lot of bullshit and I need to stop. Yeah, yeah. Ooh, there may be a mug of Mehitabel in a space helmet. I love it. She would love that. She's an astronaut for sure. Those kitties, I know. Claire says, hey, Claire. Claire says, reminds me of Moscow on the Hudson. Oh, I forgot about that movie. I haven't thought about it in a long time. He says, in Russia, he loved his misery because it was his own. He came to the US and faints in the toothpaste aisle from all the choices. Yes, exactly. Paula says, the harder path is to figure out the easy way and allowing yourself to implement it. Exactly. Fail faster. Exactly. I can overthink a paper bag. Oh, believe me, I've watched you do it. You guys also talk yourselves in and out of things on a dime, right? Quit it. You also think everything you do has to be like super perfecty schmerfecty. Quit it. Right? Leah says, what am I willing to allow for myself? Letting go of the hard and unhappy, accept ease, alignment, and profitability. Yes, exactly, Leah. Exactly. Where he says, I can make the plan. It's the following through I haven't mastered yet, but I'm an amazing planner. Yeah, the trick with that, it's one of the tricks, frankly, of the personal development industry, and it's not a nice one, is planning. You know, your brain can't really tell the difference between what's real and what's imaginary. This is why we cry at movies, right? Even though we know it's not actually happening, our emotions feel like it's happening and our brain's responds as though it's happening. This is why haunted houses work, right? Because even though we know it's all play and dress up, it still scares us. So when you write out a plan, your brain is visualizing that right along with you and is like, okay, good plan. We're done. The dopamine hit you get is from the planning. It's not from the executing. So, like I said, it's a little trick of the personal development industry that they're like, well, come on, we'll help you make a plan. And then you make the plan and you feel all chuffed and like, yeah, this is great. I'm going to totally do this. Well, there is nothing in that helps you the next morning when you're like, this plan seems really ambitious and hard, and I think it's going to change things. And I think it's time for me to rearrange my sock drawer. Very busy. So you've got to make it stupid simple. You've got to make it so simple that you can't not do it. That's where 15 minutes a day came from, right? So stop making plans for things that are too big, that take too long. Procrastination often means that your project is just too big. So chunk it down, make it a super simple step. Get some accountability. That's the other reason to join Daily Practicum. Oh, by the way, if you go to therealsambennett.com/practicum, Practicum, practicum, which means daily practice, right? $47 a month, and you can be a part of our community. It's pretty great. And some people don't ever even show up on the Zoom because the timing doesn't work for them, but getting the daily reminder gets them going, right? Paige says, feeling too overwhelmed to do or start new projects. Right. See, so overwhelmed is one of those big words that we use to mask 1,000 things. I think you probably either feel underwhelmed. That's my friend Amy's insight, is so often we say we're overwhelmed when actually we're underwhelmed. We are bored to fucking tears with all the stupid little shit we've got to do. Like, clear the way, or at least do some of the big stuff first and get energized. Like, okay, I spent 15 minutes working on my novel. Now I can face carpool. I spent 15 minutes playing guitar or singing opera or playing with my beads or making art with markers or whatever I'm doing. Now I have more energy, to deal with the bullshit of my life. But overwhelmed is not something the world does to you. Overwhelmed is something you do to yourself. So again, get frustrated with yourself. Get mad. Like, knock it the fuck off. Quit overcomplicating. Quit saying you're overwhelmed. What are you really? Are you furious? Are you afraid to have a conversation? Are you putting off a decision that you know has practically already been made and you're just not saying it? Quit hiding behind overwhelmed. That's my advice. Yeah, that's why practicum was included in the how to make $1,000, because we want to support you in that, to not just make an actionable plan that has little teeny tiny steps, but then actually help you take those little teeny tiny steps. Paige says, love it. Oh, good. Thank you, Paige. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to harsh on you, but this is what this is about, sort of, right? Is dreaming up all that. So we're at the bottom of the half hour. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Let's do one more breath to close out this circle, and I'll see you next week. I'll see you next week. So you ready? Let's inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for doing this with me.